Cherry Creek Radio has been furnished a fee for the following program.
The following program does not reflect the views and opinions of Cherry Creek Media.
Good Saturday morning. This is Russ McClellan, operating partner and designated broker of Keller Williams Realty NCW and the host of Home Sweet Home Radio. I wanted to start today's broadcast with a heartfelt thank you from me to you. On this show, each and every Saturday morning, we explore a variety of real estate topics. We'll introduce fascinating people and their unique take on a variety of subjects. We'll bring on our Keller Williams real estate brokers and find out what makes them tick, mainly so you can get to know them as I do. I want you, our listeners, to know that without you, this show simply wouldn't be possible, and for that I'm extremely grateful. Our brokerage now has brokers in almost every city in north central Washington, and we are by far the fastest growing and the largest real estate company in our area, and we just think we're getting warmed up. I love to bring authenticity to the program. I'm not afraid to say what I feel and mean what I say. I hope you enjoy today's show, and thank you once again for making Home Sweet Home with Russ McClellan and friends a reality each and every Saturday morning.
Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home with Russ McClellan and friends. Here's your host, Russ McClellan.
Hey, good Saturday morning to you. This is Russ McClellan with Home Sweet Home. Hey, we're having a good time in the land of COVID. How about you? Man, when's this thing gonna end, really? Like, does anybody really know anything about anything right now? Because all I know is 128 characters doesn't tell me a whole heck of a lot, and depending on which TV show or which cable news show or which podcast you want to listen to, the world's going in about 7,000 directions simultaneously. But the good news is the sun's shining, still breathing oxygen. I feel for the people that are suffering. Tough times don't last. Tough people do. Hang in there. And gosh, our hearts are with you. So let's shop local. Let's do what we can, guys. All right. Hey, today I have an old friend and colleague and guru. Good morning, Jay Witherbee.
Good morning, Russ. Nice. This is Home Sweet Home for us, isn't it?
It is, man. It's like a reunion of sorts. I love the fact that when you get so old or you've been around so long, you're just like, it's just kind of a permanent part. And that's kind of how I feel about you. And so we were talking off air about how many people have come and gone and passed away, sadly, but we've been around a while.
I think I jumped in the Chelan area about the early 80s, made my entrance into that, and ran into you in the end of the 80s and early 90s, and we did some business together and still do.
Yeah. It's fun, Jay, I'm going to try to hit the dates, but I don't know anymore what day of the week it is in the land of COVID or month. But back in the early days, you moved. Where did you originally were a sign company, positive sign company, and you had a business on the west side, didn't you?
South King County, yeah.
Right.
I did really well over there. And back in those days, I learned that you could do business anywhere. Wasn't Zoom days. This pre-Zoom days. They had a machine called the fax. And so I could do work in Chelan via my fax and my telephone, and people thought I was actually in South King County. Now they do with Zoom.
Yeah, right now you can be in the Philippines and think you're in downtown Seattle or wherever. And I remember when I started real estate, in fact, I just put it on my Facebook not that long ago, in 1989. So I think I met you right in there. I graduated high school in 87. I don't know if I knew you in high school, but right after that, I got in real estate pretty early. I was going to Wenatchee Valley College, and you had moved to Chelan. And I remember starting up Frontline real estate in the early 90s. And I didn't have 2 cents to rub together. And I think you loaned me, you paid for a sign for me for $35 that said Frontline Real Estate, had that Apple logo. And we took the market by storm. I think I opened in the middle of an orchard in the middle of this cabin, kicked off the cobwebs, and it was a metal door. So you loaned me the money. I probably still owe you $35.
I can't remember. I'll look it up.
Yeah, we went for it, man. And then it wasn't that long after that I bought from our old friend Bernice McCauley, R.I.P. She was an amazing lady at Lake Chelan Properties. I think I bought that in like the mid 98, maybe 96, 97, somewhere in there. And then you went on from there. You did that for a long time, and then you got into. Just tell me a little bit about what. So people that don't know Jay Witherbee from Chelan. Give us a little narrative of what you've been up to the last 30 years or so.
Well, I popped into Chelan in the early 80s and bought a piece of property through Bonnie Cannon. Remember Bonnie and her husband, Don? Prior to that, he was a county or a port commissioner for a long time. Yeah. Bought a piece of property. They helped me buy it from, believe it or not, Mike Steele's mother, who's now our state representative, because Mike was born and his mom needed to buy a station wagon, so she sold me a little lot up in Chelan Hills for $15,000. It was $1,000 down and $50 a month. Perfect.
Well, like I bought your sign.
Yeah. By the way, I sold that piece of property last November for the high six figures.
Oh, yeah.
So it worked. That one worked out okay for me. So did the sign business for a long time. Did find that I've always found that investing a little bit in real estate is a pretty good idea. It seems like when we run out of stocks and bonds, somebody runs in the back room and hits the print button, and a whole bunch of more stocks and bonds come out. Well, they quit making land a few million years ago, so they can't replicate it. So I've always felt that you should put a little bit of money in real estate, and did that for quite a while. Owned some businesses, several businesses in Chelan, real estate. You and I have exchanged properties before, so and it's worked out okay for me.
Yeah, and then you went from there. When did you get into the broadcasting side?
That was just about 11 or 12 years ago when Steve Byquist retired from KOZI Radio, and they were looking for somebody who had a little bit of radio experience. And all I had was, I jumped into politics for a while, but I'm now a recovering politician. And so I did the 12-step program, and I'm doing very well on it. But
I want to get into that because you were a one-time or two-time mayor?
One-time mayor, county commissioner, and then I ran for county commission, and Doug England beat me. And by the way, Doug is a much better commissioner than I would have been. So that was a pretty good loss. So I did all that, in the chamber stuff and the Rotary president, and did all that stuff. Everything you do in a small community.
Yeah, you've given back a ton of your time, a ton of volunteer time, and I think you were the narrative of Second Cup of Coffee, which I think you added a certain flair to that, and you had the ability to. You say you're a recovering politician, but you had the ability to get your point. I think you always have straightforward person, straight shooter, yet not offend too many people. I mean, as we know, you can't not offend in today's world. I mean, everybody's upset about something at some point, but in the general scope, I thought you did a masterful job of just being direct without being a softy, so to speak, but yet not offensive too much.
It was a fun job. Actually, it was the only job I've ever had. I went to work for Boeing in '77, quit in '79, and that was the last time I collected a paycheck until the radio. Right. And that happened right about the end of '08. And if you remember, I was so far in front of my skis in that '08 real estate market that adjustment of '08 was a bit painful. And when Cozy came to me and said, "Hey, would you like to go to work for peanuts?" And I thought, well, that's more than I'm making today. I'll take that job.
Yeah, I do remember 2008. I got hammered. Yeah. It was great.
Yep.
Probably more ways than one.
Yeah. I've always, Russ, I can't learn from books. I just don't do very well at it. So I read about HOT for a long time, but it wasn't until I burned myself that I really understood it. Same thing with the real estate market. I knew that markets go up and markets go down, but in '07 and '08, I just felt everything I touched was turning to gold. And that correction, because it didn't break me, made me better.
Oh, yeah. I think that the humbling effect that life has, regardless of adversity. I always say adversity breeds clarity if you let it. There are some people that like to repeat the same things over and over again and enjoy that pain. But I tell you, it's an interesting time right now. Let's kind of go back to the beginning, and then what did you think what was your inspiration to move to Chelan from the west side? Did you always know about Chelan?
No, my first trip to Chelan was in 1977. And I was staying over at what is Pleasant Beach now, but at that time, if you remember, it was a bunch of picker cabins, and you rented them for $20 a night. And I stayed there for one summer and looked across the lake over to Chelan Hills, and there were like 4 lights on the hill. And I thought, you know what, this is where I want to live. And eventually I was able to make that happen and committed to that $50 a month payment, which seemed like an awful lot of money at the time. But that was in '82. And just never, Seattle's a beautiful place. The best place to see it's in your rearview mirror.
Hey, man, especially lately. I'm not sure what they're doing over there
No,
now.
I'm not either.
I mean, let's think about that. So let's think about Lake Chelan. I mean, you talked about finite amount of real estate. One of the things I always bring up is that we have a lot of supply constraints right now. And as we look at today's world compared to the early 80s, late 70s when you arrived, and I was born in 69. My grandmother, Daisy Grimes, came to Manson on a covered wagon. She passed away at 101 years old about 8 years ago and came on a covered wagon from Missouri. So, I mean, that's my dad's mother, right? And my dad lived to be 86, passed away in April, and he was born in a little house in Manson. My mom was a 1956 Apple Blossom Princess, and I did my K through 12 with Manson school districts and graduated in 87. But, you know, I bring all that up because I'm just thinking in just that short period of time between my grandmother to my father to me and you, how much change has happened. And these supply constraints that are so obvious to people in real estate. I mean, you think about zoning and topography and infrastructure and the fact that about 88% of land is owned by the government in one form or another in Chelan County. And then you relay the amount of demand that with the technology advancements, what I call forced adoption of stay-at-home work, employers on the west side are figuring it out. Like, wow, if you don't drive 5 hours a day in traffic, you might get more work done, so you can work at home. Well, people like you saw in the 70s and early 80s, that was kind of an anomaly. That was a unique situation because you almost had to be self-employed or work for maybe a fruit company or the government. I mean, there wasn't really, or be a farmer. I mean, there wasn't really a lot of opportunity. And now what I see is an unlocking of millions of people. And when you add the supply constraints that we have, how do you see this playing out?
Well, you know, I just made a big investment in East Wenatchee because I felt the same way about that. I just think that it's not only can you work from home, you come to Eastern Washington, Central Washington, you can work and play from home. It's the best it's the best we have to offer.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting when you think about everywhere in the country. You know, Barbara Corcoran, the Shark Tank girl, she said at Good Morning America, there was a quote, she said that she believes 1/3 of Americans are moving out of the metropolitan area into the country. Well, when we come back, Jay, I'd like to talk about what do you think this is really going to do, the pluses and minuses of this, because I think there's always advantages and disadvantages of growth. And, you know, there's some concerning things and there's some exciting things. So when we get back just a few minutes, we'll, if you don't mind, we'll keep engaging in this kind of reminiscing conversation.
Looking forward to it.
All right, back in a few minutes.